there was a Religious Liberty Commission hearing where this is a commission that was established by executive order by the president early in his term and was supposed to serve for a year. It's supposed to end on July 4th at the celebration of the 250th. But their entire job was to come up with a comprehensive report about the foundations of religious liberty in America, the impact of religious liberty on society, current threats to domestic religious liberty, and strategies to preserve and enhance religious liberty protections for future generations. So what we've seen is that this commission, which has big names in the faith community like Franklin Graham on it, as well as Cardinal Dolan, names that people know, kind of got shaken a little bit yesterday with this hearing that was supposed to be focused on anti-Semitism. And it had people testifying, including Bruce Pearl, former Auburn University basketball coach, who's been on this broadcast before, as well as from UCLA Law School, an individual, a student that was there. Many different universities represented to talk about the experiences of anti-Semitism or combating it in the United States after October 7th. And what we saw, Jeff, was an individual who was on the commission who hijacked the hearing on anti-Semitism to spew anti-Semitic rhetoric, to prop up the lies and the hatred that we've seen be spewed by the likes of Candace Owens, to interrogate the witnesses talking about their experience of anti-Semitism on U.S. campuses and flip it on them. She was wearing a Palestinian pin, it appeared, but became an activist going against the people trying to testify to help this commission make recommendations to the president on how to combat anti-Semitism. And she became maybe a case study for the commission itself.
You know, because we work not only in the courts, but also very much in Washington at the political level, we know, and at the policy level, we know that what maybe much of the public does not know, that unfortunately there's an entire layer, a very deep-seated, deep-rooted layer, including on the Republican side and including in this administration, of people who really are very deeply anti-Semitic. But, you know, if you're wearing a Palestinian pin, which represents not just hatred for Israel, but death to America cries all around the country, burning American flags all around the country, it's very hard to think that such a person really should be representing anybody on a presidential commission. And the fact that she said that she listens to Candace Owens daily, and she'd never heard anything she would consider anti-Semitic. So what does she consider anti-Semitic? Candace Owens literally forwards, I don't mean current day Nazi theories. She forwards, she repeats, she uses as fact, debunked things that were used by the Nazis themselves to justify the murder of all the Jews in the world, which is what their goal was. And Candace does this over and over on a regular basis, and she claims she's never heard this, or she thinks that's fine, that's not anti-Semitic. So this is just a clearly evil person who shouldn't be there. She also claimed to speak on behalf of Catholics, all Catholics, which is shocking because the church itself would reject what she says. There are so many American Catholics who are true supporters of Israel and friends to Jews. And it's really, you know, I know a lot of Catholics. I'm pretty sure I've never met a Catholic who thinks it's a good idea to deny the Holocaust and justify the Holocaust at the same time, which is exactly what Candace does.
It is just shocking when you read, one, that this individual was placed on the commission and was able to then completely hijack the commission's hearing yesterday on anti-Semitism by spewing anti-Semitic hate. And she said on the panel that she would be questioned whether she would be considered an anti-Semite because she does not support Zionism and because she believes the Jews killed Jesus. And to that, I will answer her question. Yes, I believe she is anti-Semitic, Jordan. I think that she has bought into lies that are thousands of years old that led to atrocities in our history against the Jewish people. That when we say never again, we talk about making sure that voices like this, we believe in freedom of speech, but we also have to combat speech with speech. Yeah, we have to fight back against these kind of lies being spewed, and it shouldn't be done from a commission, from a place of authority. That's why I believe she should be off that commission.
No, I mean, the fact that she said, you know, she's a strong supporter of Candace Owens, who's never said anything anti-Semitic. I mean, I think a quick Google search, you can find a quick breakdown of just dozens and dozens of things that she said that are anti-Semitic. You turn it on randomly, and she's talking about Jews. And sometimes she'll try to laugh it off, but it's her number one topic. And you see that too from Tucker Carlson more and more recently. You're seeing it even from obviously the Nick Fuentes of the world. That's all they do. But it's this statement which shows the lack of theological understanding even amongst her faith. She doesn't support Zionism because she believes the Jews killed Jesus. I mean, this was all set in motion by, if you believe our faith, by God, for Jews to kill another Jew, that Jesus was Jewish, and also go along killing his disciples that were Jewish, many of them who were Jewish, to try and prevent the spread of the Christian faith. Well, so the entire Christian faith that she believes, it says she believes, and is so important to her, its bedrock is Jews.
And I think that and I see some comments on YouTube that are trying to kind of echo that lie, that when you believe the gospel, you believe that God ordained that. It was prophesied in the Old Testament.
It had to happen.
That would happen. Who in reality killed Jesus was sinners, because he came as a savior for those that are sinners. And also, guess what? If you read the story, he rose from the dead. He conquered death. The beauty of the Christian gospel, as opposed to many other religions that are more retribution driven.
Yeah.
When you think about how some theocratic governments are retribution driven, when they call out and say death to America, death to the Jews. Yeah, I'm talking about Iran. What's different about their holy book is focused on retribution. The gospel, the story after the crucifixion and resurrection, is solely focused on Christ and the redemption and the work of that and the spreading of the church. So I think that this is something that gets under my skin as a Christian, as a Protestant.
Misses the point of the entire
gospel, right?
And the entire hearing itself. This hearing was for all different religious groups to make sure that we have that religious freedom in America, which means religious tolerance, which means hopefully we get back to a point where we don't have to have so much security around our places of worship, but we've seen them come under attack, and the number one places of worship that do come under attack are Jewish places of worship, even though it makes up such a small percent of our country and in the world, that they face the most threats. But we've seen it happen to churches. We've seen it happen to other religious faiths. And again, that's just the reality we live in. It's the purpose of this commission is to get us back to a point where there is respect, even if there's disagreement among the actual faith, that there's respect for the faith and there's respect for your fellow Americans' choice to believe or not to believe in the faith that they choose.
We're going to go to Candy calling from Georgia on line 1. Candy, you're on Seculo.
Yes, I am disappointed with Candace Owens. She used to be Charlie Kirk's friend, on fire against evil, on fire for God. But now it looks like she compromised herself. And I hate to disillusion her, but Jesus is Jewish, and so are his 12 disciples.
It's very bizarre. I mean, you could look anywhere because this speaker who's on this commission said, you know, she's never said anything anti-Semitic, and you could just pull up list of things. I mean, she promoted the blood libel conspiracy that Jews use the blood of Christian children for ritual purposes on her broadcast before. She claimed that the family of Leo Frank, who was a man lynched by a mob in Georgia in 1913 after being wrongly accused of murdering a young girl, that they believed in pedophilia and incest as sacramental rites. And this is her exact quotes. And that would commit these acts, things that would normally be termed blood libel, were actually happening. She's engaged in Holocaust distortion and denial. And the reason why, this is her quote, the particular episode is so detrimental to Zionism is because they polluted Americans' minds to believe that we must defend Israel out of morality and the evils of the Holocaust. You know, at some point she decided to take this turn, and it seems like it was kind of lined up with when she decided to double down with Kanye West and start defending him. Now he's come back and apologized for some of these statements and said, you know, he was on this kind of wasn't on the medication he should have been on, and was kind of having this breakdown. And he's apologized. Yeah. She is not.
There is a case to be made that I totally disagree with, by the way, of people not supporting the political state of Israel, having issues with some of the stuff they've done. But why does it always then have to jump from I disagree with their politics or I disagree with the war? You can be anti-war. Right. I don't necessarily, I'm not on your side in that, but I understand if you feel that way. I don't like it, but I understand. I think you're ignorant. You don't understand the situation. But why it always then jumps to they're hiding the body of a mythical creature that is then going to control the weather and the end times, and this is what's going to happen, and they're stopping Jesus from coming back because they're controlling. I mean, this is why it gets spun to the point where you go, oh, no, what you're just saying is anti-Semitism in its most pure form, because it's just conspiracy-based nonsense. It has nothing to do with your feelings on the people of Gaza, has nothing to do with Palestinians, has nothing to do with war. It only has to do with this bizarre infatuation you have with a very small percentage of the world.
Right.
And she tried to say that Jews were in control of the slave trade, and even historians have said it's such a minuscule part of that of those actions and those wrongs that they weren't even a player. And so she takes that, any kind of trope you can use. Oh, they were the head. They came up with the slave trade. They eat children. They're pedophiles. They're this. They're that. I mean, it's like one thing after another, and you wonder why there's so much hatred and violence targeting Jewish communities right here in the United States of America.
Well, and once again, we believe in free speech. We believe that free speech laws are the protections of free speech are there to protect even speech you disagree with. That's why we have to combat this kind of disgusting rhetoric with more speech and drown it out.
We always have to also make sure that we're not conflating all of this under one banner.
Right.
Look at all the conversation that led around the Super Bowl and the halftime show of the Super Bowl. Let's not conflate those two things together, which is you can have a problem with all of it.
Right.
You can have a problem with none of it. You don't have to say, well, I'm a conservative, therefore I don't like Bad Bunny, and also I don't like Jews. There can be a conversation to be had of, I think Christian music or maybe we should have gone more country with that's a who cares conversation.
Right.
But the problem is we're starting to paint with such a broad brush, and it becomes this overall racist overtone that the conservatives have got to shake out of.
Yeah.
They've got to shake out of it, or what's going to happen, you're going to lose in a dramatic fashion. And by the way, I don't believe that most of you are racist who are saying a lot of these things. I believe maybe if you're talking the way that she does about Jewish people, in sense, maybe you are racist, but that you're going to get labeled that way. And the American people stand for a lot of things. They'll stand for a lot of free speech. You know what we're pretty good about right now? We've been pretty good about for the last, 50, 75, 80 years. Is fighting back against racism.
Right.
So don't become the party that feels like you're celebrating racism.
And once again, that is why we believe that someone like that shouldn't be on a presidential commission on religious liberty,